All right, it's time for 2 new games on the channel, guys. Welcome back to more 1v1 action. If you've been enjoying what you've seen so far, or if it's your first video, make sure you subscribe so you can catch more action just like this. We've got newcomers as well as the knowns, the Vipers, the Muslims, the Doubts, whatever you want. We've probably got you covered. But today, we're going to be covering some new names. Check these ones out, guys. We have got Bakmogoon and Famut the Great. 2 names that we haven't had a chance to show yet. But they have earned their spot. They have earned their right to be shown. And here's why. Famut, well, he's sitting down at 311th. A little bit less impressive, right? You can see how we can overlook him. We're usually focusing on the top 200 at the moment. But the person that surprised me, the one that actually got my attention, was Bakmogoon. Bakmogoon is a grinder. Truly, guys. He's sitting currently 100th on the leaderboard. 1,684 rating. With 732 games played. 52% win rate, so he's kind of sitting where maybe he belongs. But that's impressive. That's still impressive. That level of grind, that commitment, and then cracking the top 100, you have to respect what he's achieved there. For reference, for kind of comparison, if you want to look at people who have similar numbers of games, you're looking at, for example, Muslim, 724 games. Or if you look at Marine Lord, with official KW and Marine Lord combined, he has close to 500. There might be another Smurf out there. We don't know for sure. Or Neptune, 566. Then there's Show 1,064 plus his Twitch chat account. Kazva, I think, has about 700 between his 2 accounts. So this guy is grinding just as hard as the pros. And starting to see some results, right? Cracking that top 100 is no small feat. And we're going to see how he actually does it. We're just going to see how good he can be, because he's going to be playing on England. England that has started to see a little bit of return to play in the last week, I'd say. Before that, kind of dead in the water. Pure dog water, in fact. The only time we really see him is if someone like Hero is playing and they were in a tournament. He quite liked them as a Civ choice. Most people just avoid them, going for Rus, China, and of course, the choice of Famut here, which would be the Mongols. Mongols on a map that they might not be favored on, though, keep in mind, as we are going to be here on the pass. The pass where there's only one cross point to your opponent's side of the map, and this might be something that England can use to its advantage to defend quickly. But you will have to defend quickly before your opponent gets out, because he's already on stables and he's already spamming out some scouts. And this actually might be another outpost play. Outpost plays are usually quite decent. I think they're a little bit wonky against England, though. We've seen that already. It's the range factor, right, of the TC. Usually that's not the like deal breaker that it would be. But it's the fact that if you misstep at all, it's double the arrows coming at you. Because remember, one of the unique things with England is that the TCs and the outposts, whatever, they shoot double the arrows. And then the other thing to keep in mind is, of course, these villages are armed to the teeth, right? Villages having ranged attack of 5. So it becomes a little bit awkward to try and actually place down those outposts, especially if you choose scouts, which is why I don't think he's going to do it. If he put out 2 horsemen already, that would signal to me he was going to actually drop aggressive outposts, but I think this is just to try and maintain vision, take away all the sheep to make the early game harder for his opponent, and then prep for pro scouts, because you know England doesn't want to go into pro scouts due to the fact that they rarely ever build a stable before 3rd age. Speaking of ages, though, this should be a fairly decent timing. Already building up. Famut hasn't started yet, so Famut has been investing a lot of resources. You can see he had to drag quite far out to reach the gold line. Courtesy of the fact he chose the wood line close over here. Overall, this was not a great spawn for Famut. The berry bush line was far away. The gold line is far away. Both tree choices don't make those other variables better. And the Uvu was, you know, probably the only good thing about this spawn, I'd say. Because basically you want an Uvu usually forward of your base. A forward Uvu is quite nice because it just means that you can actually push forces towards the front line quicker. And also, this positioning means he can plop the Deerstone down, he can amplify his woodline economy, and even the gold line when he moves to the forward one, without sacrificing the juice up on his units as he pushes them out. Because remember, the Deerstone gives that 15% movement speed boost to all units in range of it. For 15 seconds, I believe it is. So Bakmogoon already on the stone. Yeah, he's actually going for a TC boom. I like this. This is a cool idea on this map. He does have to wall up the pass, though, for this to be feasible. It could be that he stonewalls as well, right? Because he's about to hit Feudal. He'll have access to stonewalls. This could be an amazing play if he comes here and just stonewalls this. Because then Famut has no early play, right? He's dropped a stable already. He revealed it with the scouts, I think, because he had 2 showing up in Bakmagoon's base. And it means that there's not going to be a quick access point, right? It's not like he's going to immediately siege this down. He'd have to get the surplus to then get a racks or an archery range, and then he'd also have to get siege engineering to access the battering rams, because outside that, there'd be no way for you to siege through stone. I definitely hope that's Bakmagoon's thought process, by the way, because otherwise he's got an absurd amount of stone, and his wood isn't even there yet, right? Remember, like, the cost, you can see it here with the TC, it's 400 wood, 300 stone. So you can see he's already got surplus stone, not enough wood. And yeah, here it is. It's going to be the palisade walls, though. Okay. I honestly would just build stone walls. He might just build palisade and then immediately stone walls behind them. That might be his intent. I hope he puts stone walls, because I think it's a valuable investment up against Mongols on this type of map. Keep in mind, you would be sacrificing a little bit extra gold to your opponent, I think. Or maybe not. I think they're even here, right? So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 on the side of England. And it looks like, oh, yeah, 6. I thought it was only 5 for a sec there. So 6 on each side. And you wouldn't wall further in to, like, block out these gold veins. If you did, it would be godly place. Because remember that a big deal for the Mongols is having access to these gold veins. Because as soon as you reach into the castle age, you're going to have access to the step readout, which gets built 99% of the time by Mongol players. And that would allow you to gain an extra 50% and drop off from gold. But not likely to be walled in. And it's going to be a fail. Looks like the villager did get sniped out. The movement out for Famu is good. And Bakmagoon needs to get a few archers out. But you can already see the problems that are going to arise, right? Famu already pushing out horsemen and upgrading them from the early phase into normally horsemen. And TC is going to be dropped, so. Keep in mind, Famu does still have surplus stone. It could... Oh, sorry, not Famu. Bakmagoon did have surplus stone. Looks like he actually spent it in the end. Huh. Interesting. Wondering where. Was I reading them wrong the whole time? Did he not have surplus? I might just be an idiot. Ignore me if I'm being an idiot. I still think he should have went for the Stonewall play originally, but obviously when it gets sniped out, it wouldn't have worked anyway. Now he has longbows. He could move out and secure this pass, and he can afford to attempt this with more villagers, considering he does have a secondary TC now. And that does put Famu under some pressure. Famu, I don't believe, knows about this either. It was well hidden, right? It was retracted back here. It wasn't a forward TC by any length, and it wasn't in a high priority location. You wouldn't necessarily expect there to be a town center sitting right here when all it is a tree line. So if he hides this long enough, it's going to cause problems for Famut. And it looks like there was a Pro Scouts research, I think. Yep. So Pro Scouts taken, and I like the move straight away by Bakmagoon. He's like, no, that isn't free, buddy. There's a price to pay if you want to get your hands on my deer. And the second batch of deer are not easy for Famut to access. If he ever goes to them, he's going to be seen doing so, right? And then on the exfil, he might just be cut off by the longbow and killed. But here come the horsemen. We'll engage. Remember, they get bonus damage up against the longbowmen. And that's going to buy time for the scouts to move in. Only 1 horseman left, though, so you might still get sniped out on 1 or 2 of these scouts. There we go. Finishes him off. Bakmagoon. Oh, I don't think he's going to get it. Close, but no cigar. And more horsemen coming out. So nicely done by Famu. Protects the eco gains, right? So that's going to be 1,400 food going his way, and all it cost him was 200 food. And all of this because Bakmagoon is still not walling this up. I think he should have just moved out to try and wall this up. With this many archers, he definitely should do so now. He's going to lose the scout as well, so he's going to lose vision game over here. Big mistake there, not pulling back sooner. But this is going to keep happening unless he actually bothers to control the choke. And you want to be able to expand out, right? You want to have that freedom, not have to worry about raiding. You want to be able to utilize a third TC, because you know if you go Castle Age as the English player, you're definitely looking towards that King's Palace to get that third TC underway. But you have to start staking your control on the map now. You can't just hang back. And Famu is going to hang back. Already looking to drop an outpost at the pass to keep eyeballs on that. And you can see the network as well, right? Both these outposts, intention originally is going to be vision, followed up by the Yam movement speed buff as the game goes on. And keep in mind that Famu is close to being in the castle. So everything is coming together for him. Bakmagoon, on the other hand, is looking like he's a little bit in struggle town, right? Food and gold not looking good. nowhere near a tech-up situation. He built this early contingent of longbowmen, and they're just standing here doing nothing. And it's an issue I see out of a lot of England players. It's an issue I see out of anyone who builds static forces. They hesitate, right? Because you can't react the same way a horseman army or a horse archer army can. You have to already be in a decent defensible location, because if your opponent finds a way around you, you're going to take a century and a half running over. And as we like to coin it quite regularly on this channel, the Benny Hills mode sets in. And you're just running around chasing something you can never catch. And there we go, step redoubt underway. So no switch up, wouldn't have expected it. Kurultai is going to have to be like altered in some way. Maybe if it had some sort of unique tech in it as well, that would be convincing. Obviously, you don't want to make that unique tech too strong, but some sort of element. You know what actually? Oh, you know what actually be a cool idea? So something we've highlighted before on this channel is that Magadai suck. They just suck really bad. They're okay-ish as a feudal age unit, but they suck beyond that immediately, right? They are terrible value. Compare them directly to horse archers, which, yes, I know it's a castle age unit, but the cost is the problem. The cost makes them bad in comparison to horse archers, but then also their stats make them worse than horse archers. So here's what I'm going to suggest. Here's a cool idea, a solution maybe. Kurultai, what if it had a unique research that decreased the cost of Magadai to bring them in line with the horse archers? I don't know if that would be slightly too strong, but some sort of reduction at least, right? Because you're talking about an 80-40 unit compared to a 120-40 unit, right? So it is just an absurd investment. Maybe bring the gold down by 20 and the food down by 20, and then it's like, oh, that's kind of reasonable. Magadai are kind of maybe a kind of cool pocket strategy there. But yeah, currently Kurultai, absolutely abysmal, not worth building. I don't think buffing the direct stats it gives itself is the way to do this, because games where Kurultai is going to be built are games you're winning anyway, right? It's games where you can afford to have that foothold in your base. It's too much of a gambit play, and I think that's the biggest issue. The only other way I see around it is if Kurultai becomes a destroyable landmark, as in when it's destroyed, that you can then rebuild for a very small price. And that way, Mongol players can use it aggressively and then use it again, right? Because they can just rebuild it in their base. Something that just doesn't exist for them right now. Palisade walls down for Back Magoon already. So prep for the aggression coming out. He still needs to buy time. Back Magoon has only just begun teching up. It is going to be the King's Palace. It means he doesn't have a great defense force here. And that wraparound is going to be a fail. Nice idea out of Famut, but Back Magoon, he was wise to it. He did get a small palisade wall down. The fact this is not stone, though, should not stop the Lancers for long. In fact, I'm pretty sure if you just start hitting into the wall right now, you'll be through before Castle Age is complete. The infrastructure going down. The trip racks drop, so directly into the spearman. Understands that his opponent is not building into any sort of archers in the configuration, the way this game's been playing, right? The scout eyeballed that as well. He still sees there's only stables back here, and now siege workshops as well. So we'll need to be careful about clumping due to the mangonels. But outside that, the spears are a good play. There we go. Back Magoon. Now able to continue to boom up that economy. 58 compared to the 42. Keep in mind that for the moment, Famu is competitive, because if we look at the number, Famu, he's currently sitting with 13 people in the gold. Remember that you get an extra 50% drop-off from your villagers here. So what you actually have to do is you have to take that number and you have to increase it by a value of 1.5. So you actually have basically got almost 20 people working, which means that you're adding another 5 into your economy. So it's 49 compared to the 62. Still a big gap, though, nonetheless. And while Famut does get some small values, of course, out of his economy, courtesy of the Uvu, right, allowing you to save resources here and there, and the fact he already has a decent-sized army, the fact that he's not doing anything with his army now puts him in a similar situation to Back Magoon, right? Where Back Magoon was sitting there not doing anything with the archers, now it's Famut's turn to sit there and do nothing with the lancers. Listen to the siege weapons arrive. One frustration I do see for Famut with this is there's no quick siege, right? He doesn't have any static forces, and the reason that's important is because if you had improved siege engineering, you could build all this out in the field. You could have mangonels being replenished up here. You could build into your trebs. You could actually siege immediately on the front. But because it's these lancers, they don't have the ability to use siege engineering. They can't build out in the field. Nice hit from the mangonel in the meantime, though. Back Magoon caught sleeping. could not see the Mangonel. And this is the power of the outpost, right? The outpost crawl continues. And this outpost crawl means that the Mangonels aren't easy to actually get on top of either. There we go, moves in. And the Mangonels are good enough to zone him away. The Lombos can't get close enough to strike at the Lancers, and that means that Back Magoon is about to have problems running rampant for his economy. Spears coming out. Up to 13, a good number right now. And they are vet spearmen, so they will hold fast. Famut rides in now. Gold line is exposed, but it's a bit of a bait with these spearmen so close by. Needs to be careful. Mangonel's going to get value here with the shot. Nope. He whiffs it. He shot at the front of the formation. And Back Magoon's so quick to hit the staggered. Means that he's not exposed there, and the Mangonel's already gone. The Lancers have reached the Lombo army, though. Lombo's going to back up. Spearmen are going to return to the fight. And they're going to pinch here. Now Famut has to retreat in an awkward fashion. Sandwiched between both sides of the English army. And he will break out just in time. Does lose a decent amount of troops for it, though. Didn't really hit the economy of Back Magoon at all. Not much lost for him either, right? Keep in mind that Back Magoon maybe lost 5-6 troops so far compared to a few Lancers and a Mangonel. And it might be another Mangonel if you don't back up quicker than this. And remember, the Mangonel can't back up quicker. It's 1 tile movement compared to 1.25, and that's why it just goes in the blink of an eye. These Lancers, if they burn this down, all of these Lancers are just dead. Right, these spearmen in position, there's no move for the Lancers when they break out. And these spiral defenses that he's investing in, they'll help for the moment. The question is whether there's going to be enough spearmen here to deal with you once you're gone, right? Once the outpost is burned. And it looks like you might have lucked out. Yeah, it looks like Back Magoon didn't keep replenishing the spearmen quick enough. So a moment where we'll be successful, one more Lancer gets sniped out. But Famut starting to give over ground he cannot afford to do so with. Because remember, Back Magoon, his limitation in the next 5 minutes is that his economy is bursting, right, at the seams. He's up to 84 now compared to the 53. It continues to scale, and the resources will get picked dry quickly. This gold vein, already almost gone, only 700 left in, and then he's only got 1 more behind him. And he has plenty of land for farm them, yes, but his tree lines as well are limited here. You can see he's halfway through this one. It's a bit risky when you go all the way through due to the fact that it's going to be away into your base. This one is almost gone. He's got 1 left here. So Back Magoon needs to start finding some gains on territory in the next 5 to 8 minutes, or he might find himself in a handicapped situation where there's nothing left for him to actually fuel that war economy. Or rather, fuel the war machine. Words. Although it is a war economy, right? Everything in this game is a war economy. What are you gathering for? Your own goal. It's not to win peacefully. No one goes for a wonder victory. Everyone does that as a schmuck. And I can't believe in 2021 he's used the term schmuck. But it fits. Everyone goes for spilling blood, guys. Even Wall plays don't happen that much anymore. So Mangonel, almost done with the Blacksmith. Blacksmith not really being utilized by Back Magoon, though. Famut, still no switchover, though. And I'm a bit disappointed. Just Lancers and Mangonels. You can fix all your problems with an archery range, and I don't know why he hasn't yet. Or even some man-at-arms. Man-at-arms is probably even better, to be honest. You just want some sort of deterrent to the spears. Otherwise, they're just going to run straight at you every time. And that's kind of what's been happening. Back Magoon, in the meantime, might have a switch up prepped. Yeah, he is amassing spearmen even quicker. 6 barracks is here. Needs to sort his pop cap sitch. Bit of a problem right there. Any more Famut. Being outnumbered. And there's the archery rangers. Okay, here we go. This is what I wanted to see. I like that Famut identifies the importance of this. He even plops it straight on the front. So he doesn't want to waste any time getting that force in position. And also keep in mind the other element, right? So far he's been rolling up these Mangonels from back at base. Now he has the ability to build them out in the field with these archers. He can even build trebs, which is going to be fantastic if Back Magoon gets uncomfortable and starts trying to drop keeps. Very adorable crossbow is going to die. And he wants keeps. Look at this. Back Magoon, he's trying to gather the stone right now. The Mangonels haven't even noticed, though. Famut, just prioritize this. This is the only kind of gambit play Back Magoon has right now to hold. And he moves in with the Lancers. Forces them off the stone line. 2 of them get sniped out. Could have killed them all, though. Instead, he's worried. He's paranoid about the blacksmiths. He's like, what is he researching? What's so important here? Lancers break in, by the way. But no one here. Woodline has been abandoned for a while now. And your Mangonels are exposed. Needs to back them up. Pulls them away. And as he peels off, look how quickly the Spearmen are going to start dying with all these Springals, with all these garrison outposts. They're not able to stick on top of it, and all the Mangonels are going to live. The outpost crawl continues. Looks like it's going to be slowed down somewhat. Springald on Springald action. Lancers charge in, trying to give their life to get rid of the anti-siege. And they can't do it. One more strike needed. But now the Mangonels, they can get a good hit here. Look at the clump of Spearmen over on the side. Back Magoon, he loses so many of them. So many low health. He's going to have to back off for the moment. Springals have been built in the meantime by Back Magoon, but it's only one siege workshop, right? I believe so, and that's a big tell. Meanwhile, in the back, look at this, Famut. He snuck in some Lancers. These Lancers won't be able to find any additional value now that they run into a few Spearmen. But the thing to keep in mind here is as this Archer count increases for Famut, he can now switch hard into the Springals. 4 Mangonels is good enough. He just needs a villager up here to repair, which I think his villager got sniped out. But all he really has to do now is repair the Mangonels, build a few Springals, and then Back Magoon is in an uncomfortable situation. Because remember, he only has 1 siege workshop, which means that he produces these Springals at a very slow pace and can be outnumbered. He does have 4 right now, but if you were to just clump up and build 5, 6, 7, you'd be able to do it quicker than your opponent would be able to reach that 7 threshold. Because remember, it's 30 seconds for your opponent to build it. If you build it in the field, it's more like 10. Right? It's ridiculously fast depending on how many people are around the unit as it builds. Mangonel's in again. And a ram being built on the side by Back Magoon. He needs to break out soon. He understands it. We talked about that gold vein, right? He's already bled half of it dry at the back. After that, no surplus. And you see spending all of it, right? His income is low, and also it's always going out. Meanwhile, Famut continues to actually have surplus gold. It's the food and wood where he's suffering. More battle rams now being built. Wants to push in with some force. Not many Lancers here. Big mistake by Famut. He hasn't been replenishing the line. He's trying to fix that now, though. And what on earth happened here? Oh my god. Famut! No, not like this! Is this day just cursed to be full of step readout misplays? He didn't deploy it. He did not deploy it, so he's not getting the additional value, and also he's not getting great gold treacle here because of how long it takes him to return to base. Look at the number now. Almost as low as Back Magoon. And Back Magoon has plenty less people working in gold than the Mongol here. Oh my god. It's still not deployed. This is going to hurt him in the coming minutes. When he has to replace this army, he's going to be in trouble. Lancers trying to wrap round. There's crossbows here now. I love this. Remember, I was saying just recently how crappy England feels when they don't build in a crossbow because they're so stubborn about the longbows. But now, he gets the counter out to the Lancers. And the Spearmen can deal with most of what else is coming. The Archers are a little bit of a problem for the Spears, but he's still got enough longbowmen to deal with those. And the Spearmans chasing back the Mangonels in the meantime. Battering rams moving through. Spearmen getting on top of the Archers as well. And more troops coming out quicker than Famut can field them. Famut in a little bit of trouble, in a bit of a pickle. He spent all of his gold. Has he even realized it? He still hasn't realized it! This is so cursed! Oh my goodness. I think Famut's going to lose the forward base. Back Magoon's going to be able to keep surplus coming. Look how small the Archer army is getting now. It's losing numbers. It's not gaining anymore. And he's being baited in as well. This Miss Micro, Famut, all the small details just not working for him. It feels like this is a lad who has a secure 15, 20 minute. But once we get to this stage of the game, once you have to manage multiple things, look where he's failing. He drags his Archers in. He loses more than he should. His Mangonels get caught slightly out of position. His worker line is incredibly inefficient. All these details just flying above his head, and he'll finally realize it. But you have to be kicking yourself in the teeth after this. That was, what, almost 2 minutes of this? Almost 2 minutes of step readout not being deployed. Of you not only missing out on additional gold coming in, courtesy of the 50% added drop-off, but also the long run-back time of your villagers. And I bet he doesn't even have wheelbarrow. Let me at him. Okay, he has wheelbarrow at least. Thank God for that, but it's still a long bloody walk back to base from there. And now another switch up. Back Magoon starts to switch over into the man-at-arms. The Archer Rangers are at least going to be saved. Of course, that's one thing the Mongols can do. They can always pack up and drag away. But you've lost full influence over this game, full control, right? And you now have to find a foothold, a way back in, and you don't have surplus. You're the one who now needs to counter. Your opponent has a brilliant composite force here. Man-at-arms, crossbowmen, longbowmen, springles. You still only have archers, mangonels, and 1 or 2 lancers that didn't end up turning into horse meat on the ground for some sort of goblins to come and eat, right? So you have to rebuild a lancer army. You need to switch over into some sort of anti-armor type unit, right? You need to actually start building the crossbows. But then the crossbows might come into trouble if Bakmagoon continues to the longbowman, which he still has a decent quantity of, right? 15 on the front at the moment. And I believe, yeah, he's still pushing even more out. Pushing more out with the back ram now. Baiting his opponent in a little bit. Another outpost does fall. And the crossbowman will make short work of this small lancer force, so he has to back away. Now he can resume the push in. Mangonel shots. One is good. Second one's going to be a whiff. Squirrels are moving into position. Remember that Famut did not replace his. Can't afford to. The wood's suffering, right? He's about to actually run out of trees here. And this is where you reach a very dire point in your game, where you're very vulnerable. Here we go. Needs to stand his ground here. Can't give control of the pass over. Otherwise, it's going to get walled up. Tries to push in with the Sprints. Onto the Sprints, rather. But they're just gone. Lancers are dead. One Springle dead, but now the Magadol's going to be traded out, and Famut does not have the wood surplus to replace any of this. And so many archers left. His main army gone. His gold line exposed. Famut, he's going to give up. He taps out with the GG. What a play out of his opponent, out of England. Bakmagoon, I love the way he held. I love the way that he went ultra greedy, right? The trip TC. I wasn't a fan of certain elements in the other game. I will just say outright, I think he misplayed the usage of the longbows. I think he could have moved the pass. He could have walled that in a little bit quicker, or attempted to, or at least done so with an escort so it's more feasible, right? But overall, you can't criticize the way he played later. He just out-macroed and out-microed his opponent. So many mistakes just slipping through the works from the Mongol player there. Time and time again, the small details such as not dragging your archers back, getting baited in when the spearmen pull back, right? That sort of micro shift, just giving a disadvantage. Then also at the same time, back in his base, some suboptimal lines. We saw the tree lines weren't getting favored. The Gur wasn't getting moved up regularly enough. He didn't pre-prep a new Gur and half his wood force over there for when he was going to start running out of wood. Then you have to think about things like the step readout. The step readout is just like, that is burnt into my mind. I can actually hear my brain screaming right now at my eyes for what it had to process, right? Like, why did you send me that info? I don't want to see that. That was cursed. That was absolutely abysmal, right? We are used to seeing situations where, because the gold workers have been dropping off at a previous Gur, they don't drop off the step readout when it arrives. But that takes it to a whole new level. That's not even a bug, an awkward interaction. It's just, well, it is an awkward interaction. It's just an awkward interaction between the player and his mouse and keyboard. And I think that was actually a big deal breaker. I think that put him so far behind. His gold, notice he had surplus, it immediately just evaporated, where he had to try and like shift it over and prioritize it elsewhere. He never had the wood surplus to get the siege weapons out. And it's actually baffling the way that he managed to lose the siege army fight, considering he's playing Mongols. Mongols shouldn't really ever be losing in that fashion, as long as your resource count is good. But you see in that game, it's almost impossible to keep up with the English player, because one, you let him trickle up to a superior number that never should have happened, right? Because remember, only one siege workshop churning those out. And two, you're playing against an England player that has 3 town centers. His economy is so much stronger than yours, and that's exactly what we see. Fantastically done by the England lad here. And we can see exactly why Bakmagoon is now in the top 100, right? 732 games played, definitely on his spot, and I look forward to seeing more of him here on this channel. But if you want to see more, make sure that you subscribe on the YouTube side. And if you want to see more that don't even make it to the YouTube, there is always games being streamed live each day on Twitch. But for the meantime, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe up there and check out the videos on my side that will appear for you people watching on YouTube, and definitely confuse the crap out of you people watching on Twitch. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next one.